Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Tara with Mayhem Crafty Cards. In today's video, I thought I would show you how I do some of my watercolor backgrounds. Show you the different kinds of brushes that I use. I am by no means a professional watercolorist. It's just my medium of choice. So in front of me, I have a ton of different brushes. I just grabbed a couple cheapy ones to show you that you don't need like super expensive brushes to achieve like a really nice watercolor background. And I also have, when I do my watercolor backgrounds, I use a cutting board and I tape a couple panels on just so I can have, you know, so I can do a bunch at a time. And of course I have my paper towels. And this is what I use for my water. It's just a sweet little like teacup. So there's a couple ways I like to do this. First, I can take like my little mister and I will just saturate my backgrounds. This is more like the wet on wet. And I'll let it sit for just a couple minutes, depending on which medium that I'm using. So I have the watercolor pencils, I have the Zig markers, I will be having the Karen markers very, very soon, and of course the half pan sets. So I am looking to expand my watercolor mediums to try a couple different brands, but right now I'm using the Artezas. And it's just the 36 half pan set. And you can tell she's well loved. So what I do with this is, so I am diabetic and I do take insulin. But what I do is, after I'm done either injecting or filling my pump, is I will save one of my syringes. And I will just get a little bit of water into the syringe and then very carefully put it into a couple colors, because I don't want to saturate everything, just the colors I know I'm going to be using, because I can always pick up some more with the little syringe, and it adds just enough water to reactivate them. So I'm going to let that set for a minute. I'm going to grab this flat paddle brush, and what I like to do with this is just kind of like get the water where I want it, and it's going to bubble. That's why I use the cutting board, just to keep, you know, my paper where I want it to be. So after I'm done doing that, then I'm going to use these little cheapy brushes from Amazon, and they are just these really thin little brushes. So I just take them straight to my paint, and then I just kind of flow with it. I know that sounds odd, but you know, you can really pull out the color a little bit. You can diffuse it and make it softer. Okay, so I had to pause the video. My dogs went bananas because somebody knocked on my door. So back to what I was saying, like, so I really like this brush because not only does it give me more of a softer look, but I can play around with the texture of the paint. Like if I wanted to make waves, you know, I could very easily like bring my paint down. So play around with all your different types of brushes. You're not just set to, you know, watercolor specific brushes. So like I said, this is a cheap one from Amazon. I have a couple of those. Here is another. So I do like to wet them first. And then I'm going to grab another color here. And I'm just going to basically do the same thing. I'm just going to lay my color out. You almost feel like you're brushing your teeth. And remember, when this dries, it's going to be very light. It's always softer when it dries, so don't be afraid to add a little bit of color. See, I don't like this one as much unless I'm doing like big like swoops of color. But it just depends on what what card I'm making that day. So let me show you the watercolor background I did for this card. So this one is, everything's watercolored, everything. And I'm going to show you the brush that I used to make this background. But I want to kind of get through some of these other brushes first. Let's see. Let's grab a yellow. My point is though, like, have fun with it. See, now this one will lay down some color, and this is the bigger one. So it's very similar to these ones, except for it's just a little longer and it's got a little bit more bristle to it. So this one I like to lay down, if I'm going to do like a full panel, I will lay it down with this brush. And I like the blend that these ones give. So there is that panel. I know it looks kind of funky right now, but it's just because I didn't really blend a whole lot of the color into each other. But it gives you a nice texture too, so it's not just a flat, you know, base to it. My paper's starting to dry a little bit, and when that happens, I just like to take my little mister, and I'll go back through and lay down some more color. But this is super quick, super easy. I mean, it literally took me no time for that background. So for the next background I'm going to, again, use my little mister. And this will also be a wet on wet. So when I was shopping a little while ago, I found this brush by Reese, and it's a fan brush. And you can create some really unique backgrounds with this. Let's do some reds and oranges. Or some red, yeah. So it picks up the color very differently than your traditional brush. So what I like to do with this one is I'll come across, and I like the lines that it gives me, because it's not just a straight, I mean, you could do all kinds, you could do buffalo plaid, you can do anything with this brush. So let me get rid of some of that color. So see, before you pick up the color, it's kind of, you know, all together. And then when you pick up the color, let's go in with an orange. So you can flatten it out just like you would any other brush. But what I like about this one, excuse me, is that the way that the bristles always have a different shape. It's never the same shape. So you come across and do some, you know, lines, or just blend them all together. All right, let's go in with a yellow. And I really like how this goes, because then you can also make little waves. And this is what I usually do for like my ocean scenes, or any kind of like fish where I'm doing water. I would just make little waves with my brush. And it's so much easier to blend into with your other colors. But once it dries, then you can go back over top of it again. I mean, just remember, it will reactivate the paint you've already laid down, but it will give you such a different background. Let's go in with this bright blue. So there, you can kind of see the different patterns it gives. And it's a little drier down here too, so it's going to give you, you know, it's going to give you a different look every time, which is what I like about this brush. And this, like I said, some of these are just cheapy little brushes. there's the wave pattern that I was talking about. So you can go in and do, like, say you don't have a die for, you know, waves, or a stamp that has waves on it. You can create your own with this brush. And that's what I really like about this, is because it's so unique. Or you can create clouds. I mean, really, it's endless on the things that you can create with this brush. And it does stain a little bit, but I mean, some brushes do. So I want to talk to you guys a little bit about brushes, because please don't think that you need to go out and buy the most expensive brush on the market. These are just some Martha Stewart brushes, and I mainly use these for my glitter inks. It just, I don't know if it's the synthetic bristles, but it really helps lay down the ink very nicely. This one I use to brush away any excess embossing powder. So find different ways to use your brushes. Don't just be stuck in one way to use them. Like, I have a brush right here that I use for alcohol inks. Who would have thought to use a brush on alcohol inks? But I use this to, you know, lightly go through and tap the color together. There's also your regular water brushes, and this one's just from Nuvo. And it's the medium one. You just fill it up with water and then you can paint away. I don't really tend to fill these with water though, because I feel like the water just kind of oversaturates your paper, especially if you're doing something fine detailed. I'm gonna go ahead and grab my watercolor pencils so I can show you some of the backgrounds that I would do with those. Now for the watercolor pencils, I either tend to keep it just, you know, completely dry, or I will wet my pencil instead of wetting the paper, because you're going to get two different looks if you wet your pencil with your brush. And this is one of my favorite little detail brushes. It's a number 0 round. So let's do, let me just show you a couple here. So say I want some reds, and I am barely touching my paper because I don't want to keep those lines. Let's go in with an orange. We'll just do a rainbow color for this one. And I always lay all my colors down first before I wet my paper. This yellow is going to be really hard to see. But I'm literally just barely touching my pencil to the paper. Let's go grab a green. But don't ever limit yourself just to thinking, well, this brush says it's for this, so I can only use it for this. Experiment with your brushes. Experiment with watercolor paper. This right here that I'm using is, oh, what is it? I believe it's Recollections by Michaels. And this is what I prefer when I'm doing, now I will not use this for my zigs. It just doesn't blend as nicely. Like, my zigs really struggle with this paper, so I will use the Canson XL paper for that, or the Bristol Smooth. Just for some reason, it just does not like to blend on the Recollections paper. Let's grab some blues. And like I said, barely any pressure at this. Now, when I'm done, there's a couple different ways I could do this. I could use my brush, any brush really, with water on it while the paper's still dry, or I could saturate my paper after I get all my colors mixed in. Let's get some indigo. I think my kids have stolen my indigo pencil. It's all right. Make it work. that one though. And these are just simple, quick, easy backgrounds. There's nothing to it. There's no rhyme or reason. Let's find, see if I got a violet in here. Oh, kids must have taken that one too. Can't keep my pencils. But again, lightly going over. So I'll show you both ways that I would do this. So let's start with the brush. And I'm actually going to use my fan brush. So I'm just going to wet my brush. And I'm just going to start with small strokes. Now with pencils you have to be careful, because if you don't have the right paper, it is going to not blend and you're going to see all your pencil strokes, unless that's something you want. So see, yeah, since I did it so lightly, you're going to see less strokes than if I really kind of went in at it. Now reds are always hard for me to blend without the lines, no matter what pencil I'm using. So now let's go in with the big paddle brush. And I like to do this sometimes if I have a lot of colors that I've laid down that I just want to quickly blend together. And the watercolor pencils I'm using are just the Arteza watercolor pencils. But you see how softened that is now compared to what it was before with just the pencil lines. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my paintbrush to wet my pencil and then go in with my brush instead of going in with just the pencil itself. So when you do that, you're going to get, you know, a much brighter color. And these backgrounds will not take you that long at all. I mean, I can literally do these in, you know, 10-15 minutes. And I try to keep them, I try to at least do 3 at a time on my little wooden cutting board, because then I can mass produce them. Of course, I pick a yellow. Let's grab another brighter color. So literally all I do is I will dip my paintbrush into the water and bring it straight to the tip. Now you want to be careful that you don't oversaturate the wood. And sometimes what I'll do is I'll take it and I'll flick it, just to get a splatter for my pencils, because I may not have that in other mediums where I can get a splatter like this. But you just want to keep your brush wet and just flick it off the end. And look at that. You can have splatter in every color under the rainbow and not have to have 15 different, you know, sprays or concentrates to do that. So, yeah, I mean, literally, it takes me only about 10 minutes or so to do this. Here are a couple other brushes. Now, I do use these for different, like this one is more for like smaller lines, thinner lines. This one is for, you know, more of a larger area that I use. But just take a look at your brushes. See what you have. See what, you know, you could possibly do with them. And try using different brushes. Like, don't, like I said, don't just keep it to one medium. Unless, you know, you're using acrylics or something like that where your brush is, you know, a little harder. But have fun. Play with your backgrounds. These literally only take me about 10 minutes to do, if that. It just kind of depends on what I'm doing for that week. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Excuse me. I really truly appreciate all the support and all this. I want to thank all my subscribers. It still amazes me that I have, you know, I'm 3 away from 300, which is a huge goal. That I'm very happy to accomplish. So thank you guys so much. Oh, when I do hit 300, I will be doing a giveaway. So be on the lookout for that video, because I hope that I will hit that very soon. So thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Have a great weekend. Bye, guys.